I'm going to be introducing you guys to a format called Peasant. It's a lot like Pauper for all you Pauper fans out there, and it's also a lot of fun because the metagame is really different, and you can play a lot of different decks and decks that you aren't used to and don't expect. So I'm really enjoying it. Um, the main difference between Pauper and Peasant is that you can have 5 uncommons in it, and you can also have any common that was ever printed as a common in your deck. So there's a bunch of things that are only uncommon 9 but were once common, so those are now legal. One example is hymn to the Torak, or hymn to Torak, which is only uncommon online but was once a common. I forget what edition it was a common in, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to be taking you guys through a tournament, but before that I played in, but before that I'm going to give you a quick look at the deck tech. There's 8 mountains, 8 swamps, 2 forgotten caves, 2 barren moors, and 2 Rakdos canariums. I sometimes have slight issues with, not hitting that not hitting your black or not hitting your red, and then having like a couple black spells in my hand or a couple red spells in my hand that I can't cast. But usually the mana in this deck is pretty solid, so I don't think it needs like Terramorphic Expanse or anything like that. The reason that Forgotten Cave is in this deck is that after it's pretty explosive, and after it plays out all of its cards, it really needs some card draw to make it a little bit more consistent. So that's why there's 4 cyclers in here, and it's pretty. Usually, you only have one. Alright, you can have Carrion Feeder as a turn 1 play, and then normally you wouldn't be playing Lightning Bolt or Firebolt as a turn 1 play. So it's okay having a couple of these come into tap lands. It's not going to slow you down that much. The worst case would be if you had like one land, you kept a 1 land hand, and then you drew a Forgotten Cave, and then you couldn't cast anything. But I don't know why you would be keeping a 1 land hand anyway. So, and as far as the mana curve of this deck is concerned, a decent amount of 1-drops. All your removals is 1-drop. Pretty much all your creatures are 2-drops, or 1-drops, except for Nantuko, Husk, and Vithian Stinger. Alright, I'll go over some of the mechanics of this deck now. Grim Harvest, it's a really strong card. It gives this deck a lot of late game strength because you can recur your cards, and you don't even need to worry about like this just getting stuck in your graveyard and nothing happening, because it's you yourself get to put a lot of creatures in the graveyard, and you actually want to be doing this. So Grim Harvest is quite strong. Here are the uncommons that I included. Skeletal Scry lets you draw a bunch of cards, and it's quite cheap. Sometimes you can be pretty low on life total, so it can be a waste of a card. But usually it can be quite strong, especially against control decks if you can get this off for like 7 cards, even though you go down to like 13 or less. It's quite strong. Diabolic Tutor, I'm not that happy with Diabolic Tutor. Maybe I would rather have another Rakdos Guildmage instead, but as you'll see in the tournament, it actually won me a game, so it can be quite strong. I think it's a little bit too expensive mana-wise, so if this was like 3 mana or 2 mana, I'd be much happier. Like you might be thinking I could just use the other tutor, I forget what it's called, but it's 1 colorless, 1 black mana, and you can do the same effect, but that card is actually banned in Peasant Magic, so that's why I don't use that one. I'd be happy of having one of the other one, but this one's it's pretty borderline, but it is stronger than most of my other uncommons, or commons rather. Rakdos Guildmage, yeah, so when I was first working on this deck, I took a Husk deck, which I'm not really sure who the originator of Husk is. I think his name is Boric Morik, but I'm not positive on that. That's just the earliest posting of this deck that I could find. Anyway, it's been through several updates over time, and then I took like a more modern version of this like 6 months ago, and I was looking through a bunch of like black-red cards, and I was like, what's a really strong black-red uncommon, or just black or just red uncommon? And then I saw the Rakdos Guild Mage, and it just fits so well into this deck that I've just been winning so many tournaments with this last season. I haven't really played this much because I was busy, but yeah, I just got back into Peasant, and this card is really really strong. Um, so those are our 5 uncommons: 3 Rakdos Guild Mages, 1 Diabolic Tutor, and 1 Skeletal Scry. For our removal, we have Firebolt. It's quite good. I like it better than like Incinerate because it gives you a bit of card advantage because you can cast it twice. And usually like you'll just barely get to the point where you'll be able to cast it twice in a game. Like you'll usually have one by turn 6 or 7. Um, so I think it's just like if you weren't gonna be able to get to this point where you could cast it twice, it wouldn't be worth it. Like in a burn deck, I think it's a bit more questionable because you're probably not going to be playing till turn 5, but you might with burn. But in this deck, it's quite strong because it comes online just when you need that extra 2 points of damage, really. Lightning Bolt, pretty much like the best popper one drop removal in the game, I think. Um, it says it all. You do 3 damage to a creature or player. And so not only can you use it to remove a creature, which is what I usually use it for, but you can also use it for burn. Disfigure. This might need to be switched with Diabolic Edict, depending on how the metagame keeps developing. There's a lot of... I played a Cloak deck, and there's a decent amount of White Weenie, so Disfigure might be not quite as good as Diabolic Edict in this format. But I'm still pretty satisfied with Disfigure.